This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. Okay, friends, this is really good. It's really good stuff. Today it's all about the Amphion Argon 3LS tower speaker. Now, I've heard about Amphion for years. I've heard them at shows and stuff, but for some reason or other, I wasn't there yet. But a couple of weeks ago, Jason over at Hi-Fi Loft in Brooklyn, he's a dealer for Amphion, he offered to lend me a pair of these speakers, the 3LS, and I said, sure, let's do it, so he brought them over. They were in all white, tastefully done, very Euro. They're made in Finland, by the way, and hooked them up to my Past Labs XA25 amplifier, and I was in. I was like, yes, these are good. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Amphion is one of those companies that I always associated, or always thought that it was a pro sound company that sold some speakers to consumers. And actually, it's the other way around. It's actually a consumer company that started to gain some traction in the pro market. So much so that now, in 2020, 2/3 of all their sales are in the pro market and not to consumers. Okay, that must mean something, right? I mean, it has a studio monitor type sound, which is really hard to define because all studio monitors do sound different. It's not like they all sound exactly the same. But I guess they're moving towards a more neutral, uncolored sound. You could say they share that. But again, there's always... But, before I go any further, most studio speakers are active speakers, in other words, meaning with built-in amplification and usually digital signal processing. And yet Amphion speakers are strictly passive speakers. There's no electronics. And I think that's cool because I'm not a big fan of active speakers for consumers because the electronics are built in, it limits your choices, the DSP is going to get old in a year or two, out of date old. So I'm a passive speaker kind of guy. But the pro market is pretty solidly in the active camp, and yet Amphion has been able to gain some traction in the pro market. So Beck, Beck's Hyperspace album, his most recent album, was half of it was mixed and mastered over Amphion speakers. Billie Eilish, his newest stuff was using Amphion speakers. So, there's a lot of name dropping, and actually I have a whole playlist for Spotify and Tidal and Amazon Music of all of music that was mastered and mixed on Amphion speakers, and I will link to that directly below. I keep forgetting to mention the price. So the price is $3,940 a pair in satin white or satin black, and $4,310 a pair in real walnut finish. But there's endless variation. The waveguide, which is stylistically the most distinctive part of Amphion speakers, they all share these really cool looking waveguides, can be had in white or black. And then the grills, the mesh metal grills that cover the tweeter and the woofer, can be had in a zillion different colors, it seems. So there's lots of, let's say, customization that's possible. As for the drivers, there is a 25mm titanium tweeter and a 6.5-inch aluminum woofer. Now, on the back, there is another 6.5-inch, but it's not a woofer, it's a passive radiator. So it's a two-way speaker. It has the connectors, the binding posts I've never seen anything like them. They're really cool looking. They're mostly, the tightening part of them is mostly made of plastic. Of course, the conductive part of it is metal. But it's really nicely done. One spec that jumped out at me was the sensitivity spec is on the low side. It's 85 dB, but my 25 watt per channel amplifier had no problem driving. But you should, and I implore you to, use a really good quality amplifier with these speakers because they deserve it. They're very revealing. Their neutrality leads to being revealing. So you're not going to use a bright amp with them or mushy sounding amp. It's not going to be happy marriage. So use the good stuff. The better the stuff going in, the better the Amphion's going to sound. I'm still in my Wilco mood, so I started with Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and it's a really good sounding record, and the Amphion just let it be. Jeff Tweedy's vocals were on the money, soundstage was big, the balance, the bass, mid, treble balance was nice and smooth, but yeah, it's so smooth that it has that neutrality. I guess that's the best single word to describe the sound. So things were going well. So I played Modern Jazz Quartet's Ellington records, an all Ellington effort. And the thing about Milt Jackson, one of the members of the quartet, he plays vibes. And the vibes, that metallic, shimmer, brassy sound, I don't know what the vibes bars are made out of, but whatever they're made out of, that sweet, harmonic envelope that you just hear rising up out of vibes. If you ever get to hear vibes in real life, it's one of those goosebump things. It's just so, nothing sounds like that. Nothing is as beautiful or as complex as that. I saw them a few times in real life, and they had magic the way they played. And by the way, when I saw them, which was very late in their time together, they still had this connection to the audience. As they got into the club, it was the Blue Note in New York City. They were shaking people's hands. They actually walked through the audience to get up on stage, and they're saying hi to people they knew and shaking hands and signing autographs. And they had this vitality, amazing. A band that was together decades and decades. They loved what they were doing, and it was a thrill to see them, and I'm so glad I did. So this record, the Ellington record, is also pretty late for them, and yet the beauty shines through. It really does. I also played Spoon again. I played it in a recent review, but it was sitting there waiting for me to play it, so I played Spoon's Further Thoughts album. Is that what it's called? Anyway, I played Spoon, cranked it up, and I got to say the speakers did a really good job. But it's the mid-range. There's mid-range magic here, If I would say anything, it is a mid-range centric sound. I don't want to overstate that, but you just hear, I'm drawn to the middle of hearing vocals and vibes and piano and guitars and horns with electrostatic-like purity and presence that pull me in every time. One area that I was a little less happy with was dynamics and just like balls, right? Compared to, let's say, a Klipsch Forte 3, which is a big horn speaker around the same price. No, the Klipsch just is more of a party animal. It rocks out harder. It's got more oomph and is definitely more dynamically alive. I would say, well, yeah, the 3LS is not a party speaker. It's not like you crank it and just rock out to it. So yeah, I like this speaker a lot, and it'll be interesting to see if there can be more crossover to consumers, because I think there's definitely a place for a speaker like this. The bass, the mid, the top, treble is just seamless, and that's what makes this speaker so special. That beautifully, it sounds like one driver. I think that's the best way to sum it up. Bass isn't the most powerful. It's not going to rearrange your stomach or anything. It's not going to set your pants flapping in the breeze of the bass. It's not that kind of speaker. But in terms of communicating music, I think it's right on the money. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is very, very much the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you dig it, please subscribe right over there. Hit that button. Give me a thumbs up if I deserve it. Give me a thumbs down if I deserve that as well. Share them with your social media pals on Twitter and wherever you share. Please share these videos with your friends. You can follow me on Twitter, speaking of Twitter, at AudiophiliacMan. You can also check me out on Instagram at steve.guttenberg. You can look at my Patreon at patreon.com/audiophiliac. And as always, thank you so much for watching.